Baseball is dead.
Rest in peace.
Dallas is wearing a tie-dye shirt, holding an umbrella.
That's right.
In the backyard of a house that I presume someone doesn't want him in the backyard of.
We got to kind of make this quick.
Yeah, rocking the ALS shirt for Sarah. We have Eduardo Perez in the podcast today. Very meaty conversation with Eduardo Perez. But because that conversation was a little lengthy, that means that we only have about 7 minutes with Dallas Braden. Dallas, man, there's one topic that you're just absolutely burning on. And you gotta absolutely, like, the people have been like, oh, we need more Alex Cobb talk. Like, please.
Right.
And why don't you guys talk about Alex Cobb?
Like, Jared, you got to be a complete fucking asshole to think that the people want to hear about Alex Cobb. I couldn't even entertain your suggestion on that. I was like, Jared, we need to talk about why the Tampa Bay Rays pursuing Lance Lynn is something that nobody else is talking about, but we're going to talk about because you want to talk about Alex Cobb. Are we at the point where the Rays are going to say, fuck it, we need to add starting pitching and we don't care about what they say about how we deploy our bullpen and blah, blah. Like, are the Rays ready to commit to going and locking up arms for this push? That's the question. And is Lance Lynn
have to. I don't know that Lance Lynn is the fit, though. Like, is Lance Lynn the fit for what the Rays are trying to do there?
If they need a guy that they can run out there every 5 days and get 100 pitches from, and then the bullpen can come in and give them whatever they're going to give them, and they can be utilized the way they're going to be utilized, why wouldn't Lance Lynn be a fit?
I want Marcus Stroman to Tampa. Like, that's a guy that's pitched in that division before. He's at the top of his game right now. He can give you length. I know that Kevin Cash hates that, but you know, I feel like that's like Marcus Stroman fits almost perfectly what the Tampa Bay Rays need right now.
Lance Lynn has got to be damn near free, though, in terms of prospect cost, right? Versus Marcus Stroman, who might be the best legitimate, like truly available player on the or pitcher on the market, right? I don't know. I mean,
and we talked about Stroman's situation. Like, that's a rental deal, and again, the prospect cost and blah 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 blah. And I mean, he hasn't thrown the ball great over his last like 4 or 5 starts. I think Stro. I mean, he's got one good one in there.
He was scuffling before the All-Star break, and then his first couple of starts after the break have been pretty good.
Yeah, well, his last 5, I believe he's got an ERA like a 6.5.
That's like including some of the like his last 5 going into the break were like high 6s, like low 7s. And then he came into the second half throwing the ball better. So,
I mean, but
we'll see.
For Stroman, I mean, look, that's also when you think about postseason, you think about swing and miss. I don't know how much swing and miss Stro's generating. Not to say that Lance Lynn's fucking punching the world out either. I think the conversation for me, or the interesting part of this was, are the Rays, because of how they have used starting pitching in the past, are they at a point where they're like, look, fuck it, we need to commit to getting maybe a couple guys here to kind of steamroll ahead, instead of thinking that how we're going to do things is going to sustain itself?
I think my answer to that specific question is that it's not a change in philosophy. It's just them adjusting to their present reality. Like I don't think, and maybe that is what you're saying, but I think Lance, I think you hit it at the beginning. Lance Lynn's greatest contribution to the Rays would be availability. They're 25th in baseball in innings pitched by starting pitchers, and the only other teams that are like contenders that are below them are, I think it was the Red Sox and the Giants. So it's not like most of the teams that are beneath them are just like the worst teams in baseball. So a lot of this is predicated like mentally on the idea that if Lance Lynn goes to the Rays, they're going to find something that makes him a better pitcher than what he is on the White Sox, right? Because if he just goes there and is the same, right? If he's just the same guy on the White Sox, then the value is pretty limited. I don't know. I think I'd like to see them do it because I think they need somebody who's just out there taking the ball, as you said.
Yeah, but it's like, what good is your availability if we don't want you to be available because you suck? Like I think that Tampa is in a position now where how many fucking times can you win the division? How many times can you go to the postseason? How many times can you have this wagon of a regular season that never culminates in a World Series title? Like, I think when you have an approach or a philosophy that gets you there, that's great. Like their philosophy gets them there all the time, but you don't want to be the team that just
I've lived this.
Yeah. Like they have no problem getting there. It's that they're just like, all right, how do we put together a roster that's going to get us to the postseason? They never address okay, what do we do once we get there? Like that's never been addressed at all.
I think their argument is it's the same shit. That's part of the statistically speaking.
It's just fucking not.
Small sample size. Small sample size.
But Jared, you can look at the bigger payrolls and argue if they're consistently in the postseason and some of these larger markets and larger payrolls are consistently not, then that almost takes care of the argument itself. Like, look, no. You're spending a lot of money and you're nowhere near where we end up in October every year. So telling us how to operate and that we need to spend, fuck all the way off. You're not even in the same dance as us. So,
but then they can just turn around and be like, all right, how many fucking World Series is that amounted to? 0.
But the point is, you're not being told that they're here to play championship caliber baseball. You're being told that they're going to compete with teams that are playing championship caliber baseball. That's how the Rays do it, is they can compete with these teams. They're not telling you at any point in time they're going to be that team. They're telling you that the way they do business and the way that they operate their roster, they have figured out a way to compete with the teams who spend like they're going to win championships year after year. And they just don't have to spin that way.
But Dallas, wouldn't you agree that there is a way for the Rays to add all-star caliber talent with the resources that they do have without having to make a huge financial commitment? Like they have pieces to go out there and get an arm that is worth $250 million, but he's not getting paid $250 million. But
what are you
they can trade for the right pieces.
What are you walking away from if you're Tampa, though? You're talking about somebody on the big league roster right now.
Maybe not. Maybe if they're a rental, like, and I'm not saying that like Stroman is the piece that puts them over the top, but given the injuries that they've had in their rotation, he makes them significantly better. Like they need someone that can give them innings. Stroh goes deep into starts. He's been a frontline guy this year. He's a rental, so he's going to be pitching for he's a competitor. We know he competes. He's going to be competing for a championship, but he also knows like, hey, if the Cubs don't want to extend me, they just traded me. Like I'm about to be a free agent, and I feel slighted by the how I've been treated in free agency, the Mets, whatever. Like I'm adding that bulldog, and I'm going for it. Like that's not costing me $250 million if I'm Tampa. That's their limitation, but they have the prospect capital to go out there and be like, hey, sure.
What's the start look like in the postseason? McClanahan, Glasnow, Eflin, and then Stroh? Or are you plugging Stroh in somewhere in between one of those three?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably my 3, right?
So who's getting bumped? Glasnow?
No, you probably go 4. I mean, we're talking like 7-game series. You're going 4, right?
Well, yeah. But I'm saying in a shorter burst, is Stroh pitching one of those first 3 games in the 5 set?
I mean, probably, right? You gave up some. I mean, Glasnow has got like a 4. He probably and you're trying to help like limit those innings, I guess. Yeah.
So Glasnow goes to the bullpen, and now you got Marcus.
Not to the bullpen, but you just don't see him.
Well, if he's got the 4 and you're limiting innings, then why am I going to start him and put more pressure on the bullpen if I've got a guy like Stroman that is getting deep into ball games and is going to alleviate all of that headache right there? Glasnow to the bullpen. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, but you would still you wouldn't be like, hey, you're just going to be like a 1-2 inning bullpen guy. You're going to be like, hey, once we get to the ALCS or World Series, you're starting game 4.
I was just going to say in the postseason, the 1-inning bullpen guy doesn't exist unless it's fucking 36-2. Like that's
right.
Yeah. Like, sorry, everybody down there. If you woke up today and put on a big league uniform, you better be ready to go 9 out of this bullpen in the postseason. That's the mindset. You will get all of the outs until you're done breathing. Fair.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you'll see it in the interview with Eduardo. There's talk about Justin Verlander being on the move. I think I just saw something popped up from MLB Trade Rumors that the Mets haven't approached Verlander about moving him, which I don't know why that's a headline. I feel like a week out, I don't think that you're going up to a player being like, hey, we're going to get you the fuck out of here, dude.
It's a headline because of what we were talking about yesterday with Verlander and the fact that the Mets are trying to be good next year as well. So if that's the case, then is this a guy that you part ways with, or is this a guy that you think would probably help you be good next year because you paid him?
So then how do you read into that? How do you read into that? If the Mets haven't approached him, then that means that they're not committing to keeping him for next year either.
Or they haven't approached him because they're like, look, it's not even a conversation for us. Like whoever comes knocking, we're saying that you're not a part of the deal. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the reality, but that is as much of an option as not approaching him because you are going to move him is.
Yeah. Joe, you love the Mets. Are you trading Justin Verlander?
Depends who I'm getting back. Hey, there's OEK. Everybody's got a price. If I'm trading, I don't know. Like we talked about this before. I don't think you're going to get that much for him. Since his contract is so much, you're going to have to pay a lot of it probably. So, but are they really worried about money or players? It's a lot of questions. I think I would trade him and trade Scherzer and trade everybody if I was the Mets. Honestly,
that's imagine waiting all that time for the Wilpons to get the fuck out of here. You have what you think is your savior in Steve Cohen, and then he comes in and spends all the money that he promises that he was going to spend. And here we are, what, 2 years in, roughly 3 years in, and we're having we need to blow it up and start over conversation.
Well, I don't know. I'm having that conversation.
Well, I mean, what did Uncle Stevie not do? Uncle Stevie did everything he was supposed to come in and do, right?
No, I disagree.
No? What? You got your shortstop.
I think
he got your fucking dueling aces. He got you pocket rockets, is what he did.
I guess you're right.
You can't.
I guess you're right.
You haven't been able to fucking do anything with it.
I don't want to think you could blame him for signing Scherzer and Verlander, but looking at that now, that seemed like kind of a dumb thing to do.
Why is that? Why is that dumb?
Because they're the 2 highest paid players in baseball.
Who gives a shit? It's his money.
The Mets.
They make him having those 2 on the team, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, make the Mets better than if they were not on the team. So if spending money is really they do. So if spending money is not an object, then why is it a dumb move to make your team better?
Because that's what they did.
They won 101
even
games
for Steve Cohen.
Fucking Prince money.
No,
they made a fucking rule up, Joey.
It's not like signing those guys cost them an opportunity to sign somebody else. They didn't sign
I guarantee
Justin
you they're
Verlander.
not going to sign other people because of that.
No,
you think if they didn't have Scherzer, they didn't have Verlander, they wouldn't have signed someone else?
No, I don't think so. I think those were the best available ways for them to spend their money. Do you think re-signing Jacob deGrom would have worked out better for them?
I'm saying this offseason, if they have Scherzer and Verlander on the payroll, I don't think the Mets are going to go fucking balls deep and go crazy like they have been. I think there's going to be a limit somewhere.
I think they will supplement the roster. Both of those guys Verlander will be on an expiring, and I think Scherzer will be also. They just won 101 games last year. The last time that the Mets won 100 games was 1988. So, like, yes, they're 6 games under 500 right now, but like this question that Steve Cohen's reign so far has been disappointing. Like, I just don't understand what he was supposed to do with the roster that was inherited. It's not like he came in with a burgeoning farm system and traded all of them away and acquired expensive veterans at the cost of those young people. He took a roster that was like in between, like a little over, a little under 500 every year leading up to his arrival, and said, we're going to make this better. And the way to do that right now, while we don't have elite prospects coming up, is to spend the money. And they were better last year than they've ever been.
Fuck ton of it. I got a
Listen,
fuck ton
dog,
of it.
I think there's a limit to Steve Cohen's money. Like, it seems like he's going to spend $1 trillion every year, but I think we're getting to the point where he's kind of like, all right, I'm not going to spend. I'm going to pay $80 million 1 year for these 2 pitchers who aren't even really that good. Am I going to spend another $40 million to get someone who is good?
But it's not like he's paying these 2 pitchers $40 million for the next 10 years. They are on 1-year deals after this year. That's not a problem for anyone. Certainly not for the Mets.
It's a lot of money. It's $80 million between 2 of them. They're going to get prospects back if they're not in October.
I can see it being a problem
for
next year.
They're not prospects, but they're going to get guys back.
Also, like to the point of to the original question of whether they should be trading Justin Verlander, if you intend to be good next year, you're probably better with Justin Verlander on your team than you are if you got a guy in AA and a flyer in low A to replace him. Like, I just don't. And if they want to rebuild, then yes, they should be trading all of these guys. But I don't. Like, they have lots of people who are squarely in the prime of their careers, and that's how this team has been built. And I don't understand what the point of shedding 2 players or 1 player who is still very good would do to a team in their current position. Doesn't make any sense.
So what do you think?
Dallas got to get out of here. Get the fuck out of here, Dallas.
Yeah, I do got to go. Before I go, I just wanted to say tip of the cap to San Francisco Giants fans, Bay Area baseball fans in general, because there was another passionate movement last night at Oracle Park in San Francisco. It was not lost on me or really any of the broadcasters on both teams, what was going on. And I just wanted to make sure that the fans know it's appreciated, and it is not it does not go unnoticed. So very solid to see the Bay Area baseball fans unite last night. Very cool. And that's all I got. Wheels up.
I'm hearing it's going to work.
Wheels up to Colorado. I'm out. And an off day in Colorado where they sell mushrooms. That's what they sell, Joe.
Let's go. That's how we do it. Let's give Mr. The owner of the Oakland Athletics. Sorry, sir, I forgot your name right now. Let's get him some mushrooms and let him, rethink things.
Interesting. Well, Dallas is gone. Thank you for that, Dallas. The sell t-shirts are working. Baseball fans, you could be winning every inning with the hottest offers in the game. DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered from the top of the first to the bottom of the ninth all season long. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 to score $150 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, all customers can take a shot at bigger payouts with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Open the DraftKings Sportsbook app, opt in, and place your parlay by combining 3 or more bets from the same game. Every additional leg gets you an extra boost up to 100%. Step up to the plate right now with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app, sign up with the promo code Jared, Jared. New customers can bet just $5 to score $150 in bonus bets instantly only on the DraftKings Sportsbook with the promo code Jared. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after insurance. Opt-in and 10-plus leg requirement for 100% boost. Eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/baseball terms. All right. I think without further ado, we bring in our guest, the man of the hour, the man of the evening, if you're watching ESPN baseball this evening, Eduardo Perez. All right, finally, after a couple tries, we are here with Eduardo Perez, who, if you're not familiar, has a long history with Dallas Braden, Justin Havens. They go way, way back, the ESPN days. We're going to get into that. But we are less than 1 week away from the MLB trade deadline. It's you and Ravi tonight on the broadcast, Fenway Park, Red Sox Braves.
Red Sox Braves, me, Ravi, and let's not forget Tim Kurchin, who will be with us. Yes.
Yes, he will. Yeah, I was just telling you before we started, saw him last night at the EMC bar, and he had an Earl Weaver story for me. I was wearing a Josh Gibson jersey, to which he parlayed that into a Bob Gibson story. No relation as far as I'm aware. But the last Sunday Night Baseball was Red Sox Mets, and you had Rafi Devers mic'd up, and a little birdie told me that like those mic'd up segments, like you facilitate those. Like you're the one that's going out there being like, hey, are you willing to do this? And you walk the players through it.
I think you have to, right? I mean, just think about it. If you're a fan and you're a Red Sox fan in this case, and you have one of your best players, if not your best player, playing the hot corner, and all of a sudden he's having a conversation with guys upstairs that have nothing really to do with the game, but just to call the game, and the pressure's not on us and it's on him. I want to make sure that he understands, in this case, Rafi, what he's up against right here. So we try to tell him, and Carl's involved in this, saying, look, if there's a ball hit to your side, I won't say ground ball to third base. He picks up the ball, he throws it over to first. I'm just going to lay out. And right when the pitch is coming, lay out, focus on what you do. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but I try to at least make sure that the player knows, whoever we're talking to, what's the situation. Okay, there's one out, runner on first base. What do you want to do with the ball? I'll do it even if it's obvious. I did it with Rafi the other day. I'm like, okay, Rafi, the ball's hit to you. What do you want to do? And he obviously is like, well, I'm going to grab the ball. I'm going to throw it to second. I'm going to make a nice throw to Kike. But I want to make sure that they are still involved in the game, which is the most important part for the player, for the fans, and for the organization in general.
Yeah, that's how, in your experience so far with the mic'd up segments, what would you say your percentage of participation is, like in terms of ask versus granted access? Okay,
so it's different, because if I ask them one-on-one and I explain to them what we're going to do, and in Rafi's case is, look, we're going to, I'll ask you the questions in English, but answer in Spanish, and I'll translate. I want them to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And as long as they understand how comfortable they're going to feel, I think it's over an 80% success rate. Now, if I don't ask and it's somebody else asking, I mean, those percentages go down drastically.
Sure.
At the beginning, I thought it was even better to just not ask the players. To actually put the players on the spot. So Joey Votto was our first guy on a Thursday night opening day, and he passed the mic. And I thought passing the mic was great if the players take ownership of it. He passed it to Kike Hernandez. Kike Hernandez passed it to Ozzie Albies. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, we're not doing it that way. More people got involved, and it was like, we need to set it up to the point where we have to ask the player before putting the pressure on them. But I'm like, if the player does it, if another player does it, who are you guys playing next week? Oh, we're playing the Braves Red Sox. Let that player choose who he wants to pass the mic to, and that way the players take ownership of it, and it's not us.
Yeah, there's a great idea. I mean, like I like to see, because I think was Bryce Harper one of the guys that got it passed to?
Yeah, he got it passed to as well. He was actually a DH when he got it passed to him as well. But I mean, we've had some good ones, and we've had returnees as well. And I think it's about getting guys to be comfortable, being able to speak and play that position. We had Mickey Moniak on the other day. He's not, the star of the Angels, but not a lot of people know who Mickey Moniak is. So let's find out a little bit about his history with the Phillies before he went over to the Angels, and we get to know big leaguers. We had Triston Casas when he was hitting 160, I think.
Yeah.
But Triston Casas spoke like he was hitting 280, and it sort of, I don't know, but after that interview, I don't know if he all of a sudden said, I made it, but I mean, he's been playing like an all-star.
Yeah. I mean, the most awkward one had to have been Trevino, right? Like that was like trying to interview a catcher while he's catching in a big league game. That must have been tough to navigate.
So the guy that opened the door was actually Martin Maldonado. Okay. Martin Maldonado came up to me during batting practice and he said, "Why not me?" And it was Alex Bregman who was doing it that game. And I said, "You want to do it?" And he's like, "I'm in." And I said, "Okay, our next game is in 3 weeks, actually, with you guys. You're going to be mic'd up." And during our meetings, we hadn't had this done before, but Martin Maldonado was part of our Thursday morning meeting to explain how he was going to be able to do it and what access we could have. And he was the one that opened the doors to the catchers because we weren't touching that. We had seen it in the All-Star game.
Sure.
When Trevino had done it as well. But this counts. These are games. And he's like, "Oh, it'll be fine because it's Framber. It's two-seamer, curveball. That's all I'm going to ask for. I won't even ask for the changeup. Let's do it." And I can't even imagine Dallas Braden pitching and his catcher talking to us up there saying, "Oh, it's no problem. Dallas's fastball changeup, and his fastball looks like a changeup anyway, so it'll be fine."
Well, that's exactly how it would have gone, Eddie, because anybody who ever caught me could do that with their eyes closed. Super easy game. But that was one of the coolest things about the back and forth and the banter is getting it from Martin and getting it from guys in that kind of position. That's the back and forth you're looking for, right? Because the interviews are cool when you're hearing and you're catching up on Mickey Moniak and his path to the big leagues. What I think fans really got excited about was when it was on display in the All-Star game and you got Smoltzy talking to Manoah, asking, "Hey, dial up the slide piece right now. Let's see what we got." I mean, that's that back and forth. What was the biggest challenge for you? And me knowing you, I know the answer is probably there was not a challenge. But what was the biggest challenge making sure that these guys were on board? Was it just the comfort level? Was it just the idea that they knew what they were going to be talking about? I mean, what was it for you that made it the easy sell?
The comfort level. And sometimes we ask questions. I remember Ravi asked a question to Triston Casas because it was Mother's Day. And Tristan's mom had passed when he was young, but he had told us, and we had had a conversation with him the day before. He said, "Look, you can ask me about Mother's Day because my grandmother and aunts were a major part of my upbringing. So please ask." And all of a sudden, Carl asked him the question, and people all over social media are like, "What an insensitive question." And Carl, gets hit hard on it, but Triston knew that he was going to ask him that question. Carl knew what the answer was going to be, but we wanted the fans to hear that side of his story. People that didn't know, so we pretty much prepare ourselves for a lot of things. Now, there are a lot of things that are unexpected. I mean, Devers all of a sudden gets a pop-up, and he starts going, "Ay, ay, 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 ay." And we're like, we got to play off that, right? I mean, there's nothing you can do. You have to play off that. But the thing is making them feel comfortable. And in today's technology, they're watching. I mean, that's one game a week, Sunday, that everybody else is already done playing. And most of the players are watching in the air as they're flying back home, or they get home, they turn it on, and they're seeing their colleagues have a conversation. And in today's world, and you guys know this, it's all about being able to create that brand. This is a time to be able to create that brand, not only with the people in your local market, but just in the national market. And it's Sunday Night Baseball. I grew up watching it. I know you guys did as well. We have our favorites here and there, but people do watch, and guys understand that. I mean, the other day, I interviewed Massa, and to be able to get Massa to feel comfortable, I had to make a fool of myself a little bit. I had to go to my Japanese that I learned in 2001 when I played there. And the only thing I knew was I'm hungry. So I threw the haraheta out there in a hurry. I threw the gohan. I talked about food. I wanted to see their personality because, Jared, you know this. It's hard sometimes to be able to get a personality out of a Japanese player that has that interpreter, and they're always uber focused. I learned that uber word from Dallas, by the way, years ago. That uber focus of making sure that they get everything right when they say it.
Yeah. It is. I mean, because specifically here in Boston, it's, the face of our franchise is Rafael Devers, who, like you said, he can speak and understand English, but he's just more comfortable answering in Spanish. So it's like you have that. You have Masataka Yoshida. He's a young star speaking Japanese. Like when you're trying to like do team specific stuff, sometimes it can be really, really difficult. So how do you, like when you're coming into a series, I mean, specifically, like let's talk about tonight. You've got Red Sox, you've got Braves, like you've got big stars on both sides. There's going to be language barriers. How do you select like who we're going to ask for this game for the mic'd up segment?
Okay, so this game, because it's not a Sunday game, we're not miking up anyone.
Oh, okay.
But what we have done, and we've already had our meeting when it comes to this, is you look at a lot of similarities. So there's similarities at third base, right? You have Austin Riley and you have Rafael Devers. You have two third basemen that are young and are locked up for a long time. In tonight's game, we're going to have the possibility of having 9 players combined that are going to be at the age of 26 or younger. So we're going to look at the youth movement as well. I'm curious in finding out a little bit more about Triston Casas, as he has an approach with the time clock that not a lot of other players in the league do. And he's been consistent with it, even when he struggled early. And I think young players sometimes have an advantage when it comes to this, but he's really methodical. If I ask Dallas Braden right now, what's the most important count in the game? And having worked alongside Dallas, he'll say the 1-1 count, because it can teeter 2-1 or 1-2. It'll change, right? Drastically to one side. Triston Casas, I've noticed out of all the players in the league, he's asked for time more than anyone else on that 1-1 count, because he wants to make sure, one, that he gets it and he barrels it if it's a strike. If it's a ball, now it's in his favor, that 2-1 count. So his walk percentage goes up drastically, but his batting average and hard contact rate as well go up. In the meantime, while I do this, Justin Havens goes to his thought process and he puts his hand on his chin and he starts doing the research on that. I mean, body language means a lot, but at the same time, I love knowing what players do. Masa, I interviewed him. He goes 0 for 5 on Sunday. I'm like, that's it. No more interviews for Masa on Sunday. He won't accept it. I want to make sure that I know who Ronald Acuna Jr. is in right field here at Fenway Park, because it plays like a center field, right? So he's a different, more valuable player than he actually is in Atlanta or any other stadium playing at Fenway Park. His value increases as far as I'm concerned because of the way right field plays here. There are so many things, but at the end of the day, it comes down to pitching, and today's pitching matchup of Strider and Bello plays. Bello's changeup has to be on point, especially against the lefties. And Spencer Strider, man, I'm curious to find out who this guy is. His favorite player growing up was Casey Blake. So the first thing I did, and I have it right here, I'm ready to call Casey Blake tonight. I want to find out why Casey Blake is his favorite player.
Yeah. He's a unique cat. I don't want to say strange cat. He's a unique cat. That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
You got to ask Casas about his about the in between pitch routine, Eddie. That's what I want you to ask him about. Ask him about the thought process. What's he going through? Because if you watch him, he does the same exact thing between every single pitch. So as soon as you said methodical, I knew what you were talking about. I knew what you were looking at with him. And I've been curious. I told Jared this the other day, like just watching him operate before the game, just watching him move around and the things he does, he just moves differently. And you can feel cats that do that. So I'm curious to see what he has to say to you.
Yeah, he uses that time clock really well. He steps out, that left foot always goes to the back corner of the box, and he waits for the 11-second mark. And at the 11-second mark, he starts making his move into the batter's box, engages with the pitcher, so he knows he's okay. And the best part about it is now the pitcher can't hold the ball and keep him waiting. It's a rhythm. He's real methodical with it. The rhythm is always there. He understands it, and he's stubborn about the process, because early on in the year, man, he was terrible. He was. I mean, he would get on base at a high rate, but who cares? You get on base at a high rate and you don't run, it doesn't matter. But with Triston Casas, they allowed him, and that's another thing. The Boston Red Sox, unlike let's say the St. Louis Cardinals when they sent Jordan Walker down, and I imagine you guys were in an uproar about this because he couldn't lift the ball, but they let him figure it out at the major league level. And they allowed him to fail at the major league level. And they kept putting him back out there. And not a lot of organizations that are thinking we are going to win, we are going to compete this year, will allow their young players to do so. And the Red Sox allowed their young players to do so. And because of that, he continues to walk barefoot before games, all around the grass. He continues to do his yoga, his stretching on the field since day one. They've allowed him to be him. In Dallas, you know this. Not a lot of organizations allow you to be yourself when you get to the big leagues. And they've allowed Triston Casas to do that.
And I watched it firsthand when they were in town. I walked outside, was like, who is this absolute man-child, half naked on the first base side, sprawled out like he's ready to give birth? What does he do? And then I was like, oh, that's Casas, and he's earthing. We'll just move on.
I just like observing him. Like I'll say hi and he'll say hi back, but we don't speak, like have like in-depth conversations much. Yesterday, I'm sitting in the dugout and he just walks up the stairs, comes in the dugout with a bat in his hands. And you know how they have like the poles in the dugout. So he just takes his bat and like puts it up against the pole and is just like stretching out like his wrists against the pole. Doesn't say anything to anyone. And is just like rubbing his bat around the pole of the dugout. And then does this for like maybe 25 seconds and then just leaves and goes back down into the clubhouse. And we're like, all right, see you later, Triston. Like, I've never seen him do that before. First of all, I've never seen anyone do that before. But in being in the dugout pregame, I've never seen him do that before. So even like there's just like some parts of his routine where it's like, yeah, some days I'm feeling this and some days I'm not. And I don't know if there's a method to the madness either.
You can't figure him out. And if you try to, I think you're wasting your time. Yeah. You really are. I mean, it's like, you know, we had that in-game interview with him, and after everything that he would say, I think I looked to my left and I looked at Coney and I'm like, I have nothing here. You ask a question. And Carl would just continue to ask questions because we would just laugh. I mean, this guy's, he's different. He's okay being in his own skin. He'll paint his nails a different color depending on what the situation is. His dad's a different cat as well. I think it's just a really interesting group. His brother plays college ball, I believe, for NC State. So
USC.
University of South Carolina, is it?
Yeah.
Is it South Carolina? I know it's
Gavin.
the East Coast. I know it's ACC.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, we get on them for that as well as their competitors, and they go out there and they play. But the kid's comfortable in his own skin, and I love that. I love that about him. I love that he's real, and he goes out there, and right now he's putting up the numbers. And I loved watching him in the Olympics. And I always said the only thing he has to handle is that pitch with velocity, middle up, because that's where his big hole was coming up through the minor leagues. And he's been able to start barreling those pitches. And I have no idea what Max Scherzer was trying to do the other day, pitching to him with a first base open and throwing him a 2-0 fastball that he missed and threw him a 2-1 fastball that he hit straight away center field, probably 430 odd feet. But
it was.
The kid's real. The kid's real, and it's fun to watch.
Speaking of what's real, you guys, when you do the broadcast, you're talking broader MLB topics. Like, you're not always talking about this team is playing this team and we're gonna stick to these teams. You have a broader MLB conversation. The trade deadline less than a week away. I feel like Shohei Ohtani is the name that gets thrown around. I don't think he's going anywhere. Well, what realistic names do you see actually changing teams? Because I don't have Shohei on that list, and I don't think anyone here does either.
Okay, now let me ask you this, though, and I'd love to ask the panel on this one. I'm curious to find out Jay's answer as well on this one. Is it makes sense to actually, as a baseball move, to make the organization better? It makes sense to trade him.
It does.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand Artie Moreno, and look, he comes from an advertising background, right? That's where he made his money, with all those billboards. And you look at that stadium, Dallas, you've been to the Big A many a times.
I made
three-quarters of the stadium is Japanese advertisement. The television rights as well. after the game, you go to the concession there. I mean, you go to see who's buying, and there's a line outside. Everybody wants the Ohtani stuff. I get why he means a lot, and I wonder if he does trade him, if Artie Moreno's afraid that all that advertisement's just going to go away. And that's where I'm curious to find out.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. And I think because I've talked about the value of the franchise with Ohtani present and the value of that franchise without him there. And think about potential suitors for the franchise when Artie Moreno said, all right, the big A's for sale. And if you've got Ohtani as a part of that sale, the conversation can go one way. If Ohtani isn't a part of that acquisition, then I don't know you even have the same amount of suitors interested in purchasing the Angels for the reason, everything that you just mentioned, the money deal, the merchandise deal, what Ohtani means to this franchise specifically. So in terms of getting them better, I agree that it's probably a move you have to entertain, but I've also said that I don't think it happens because Artie Moreno is looking to just cash in on whatever it is Ohtani can bring him right now, and then from there, maybe he makes peace with the fact that he's not going to get what he would have liked when he put the team up for sale, because he was met with that very situation where people are asking, what's Ohtani look like? Is he going to be a part of this deal if I buy him, or is he not? And when Artie couldn't answer that, I think Artie reeled it back in and said, I'll keep him. Let's see how long we can go. And at the end, when the dust settles, I'll cash out on what I've gotten for him. But then we're going to part ways, and I'll sell the team and ride off into the advertisement sunset.
Eduardo, the only thing I'd say to that question, to Dallas's point, is that if it's about franchise valuation, you have to decide in your heart of hearts whether you're going to pay the price to bring back Shohei Ohtani after the season is over or not. You have to say, I am willing, Artie Moreno, to pay $600 million, whatever it is, name a price, to bring back Ohtani. I'm not going to get outbid on this. Then that's fine. Then you can hold on to him, and I think that makes sense for the reasons you guys outlined. If you know that you're very likely to get outbid in 2 or 3 months, then holding on to him now for 2 months of advertising revenue is ownership malpractice. I mean, it really is, because like he just has to decide which path he knows he wants to take after the season. And if they're not going to re-sign him, then they really don't have a choice, in my opinion, because their playoff odds are basically nothing.
And I think, look, Shohei Ohtani, then the big question is, Shohei Ohtani is an unbelievable, he's as close to a unicorn as you can get, right? Because we never thought that we were going to see a player that could hit 40 plus home runs, could run like a gazelle, and oh, by the way, I'll throw 100 with a nasty split. We haven't seen it, and I don't think we're going to see this again for a long time. Now, does he make your team better? That's the big question I have to ask, because he has yet to get his team to the postseason. A lot of people could say, well, it's because he didn't have a lot of help when it comes to pitching. But Shohei Ohtani, Dallas, throws every 6th day. Mm-hmm. Bill Nevin has to schedule his starts around everybody else has to schedule their starts around Ohtani's start. And I'll give you guys a great example. After the All-Star break, he pitched on Friday. Shohei Ohtani, if it's regular 5th day, he would have pitched Wednesday against the Yankees. Instead, they had a day off on Thursday. He did not pitch until Friday against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm going straight out of the top of my head. After that, he's not scheduled to pitch again until Thursday. After that, he's not scheduled to pitch again until a Wednesday. So if he gets traded somewhere, wherever he gets traded, pitching staff, if they have a 5-man rotation, they're going 6, because Shohei Ohtani all of a sudden is there, and he's disrupting not only the starting rotation, but he's disrupting the bullpen as well, as they're going to have one less guy. And oh, by the way, if that team has a DH, let's say the Dodgers, JD Martinez is there, they're going to now have to play JD Martinez in left field and make their defense even worse than what it is. So it disrupts the DH of JD Martinez. If he goes, quote unquote, let's say the Yankees, he would disrupt also the situation they have there, because Aaron Judge most likely will step into the DH role as soon as his size 17 big toe gets better. I mean, he's a disruptor to any team. And my question is, does he make that team better? The answer is yes, but at what cost?
I've said the exact same thing, Eddie. The exact same thing. And part of the argument for Ohtani staying in Anaheim for the wild card race starts to pose the question, how valuable now? Because we talk about how valuable draft picks are to teams. So now you start asking, how valuable is that third wild card berth to teams? Because if it's not very valuable, then is that what Artie Moreno was telling us when they moved Shohei Ohtani? Because they're right now 3.5 games back. And if they were going to have a chance at the wild card in any form or fashion, their best chances probably was Shohei Ohtani. So if they move Shohei Ohtani, I think that starts to signal how invaluable that third wild card spot is to teams and how unwilling they are to go out and try to secure whatever resources necessary to pursue the third wild card spot. And that further tells everybody that watches baseball that teams are going to be okay with either getting into that wild card via the third spot, or they'll be okay with not, but they're not going to try to bolster themselves in pursuit of a third wild card spot. Not when you're giving away Shohei Ohtani 3.5 out.
Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. We got Braves, Red Sox tonight at Fenway Park, Ace versus Ace, Bayo versus Strider. I've had people all day hit me up being like, Jake, I can't get a ticket to this game. Everyone knows it's a World Series Game 1 preview matchup. How the hell am I going to get in the door? Well, boy, do I have news for you. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seats before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you'll never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code JARED for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code JARED for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Now, Jared, I ask you this. You want me to answer the question that you originally asked? Mm-hmm. Because we went in a different way, saying, besides Shohei Ohtani, yeah. Who else do you see out there?
Yeah.
I never forgot. Look, Cody Bellinger is one guy, right?
Yeah.
I think what he's been doing since the, you could say, the last week of June to what we have seen now are numbers that we were accustomed to seeing Cody Bellinger in 2018, 19.
Yeah,
exactly. He's been solid. So I think a team like, I don't know, maybe the Astros, a team that is needing of a first baseman / defender / left-handed bat could really do well with Cody Bellinger. You look at Justin Verlander. His last few starts have been on point. Why not all of a sudden bring him back to Houston and have to pay him, let's say, $13.5 million of this year, and then you have $43.3. You paid him 2 years, $50 million. Yeah, he got hurt one of the 2 years, but he came back and he was Cy Young, and you paid him $25 million. What's the difference of now if you're able to have him postseason this year, and that's what it's all about, and you have an opportunity of having him postseason next year? You're just paying him $7 million over what you were actually going to pay him, for the 2 years, $50 million that they signed him for originally. And the owner there, Jim Crane, loves to get involved in stuff like this. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jim gets involved in this trade and says, "Let's do it," and it'll be a last minute type trade. And the other one that I'm going to hit home, close to home, Jared, with you, is James Paxton. And the reason I say him is, if I'm not mistaken, he's making around $4 million this year. Mm-hmm. So that he would be a very inexpensive trade piece for a team that's in contention, a left-handed arm that's throwing really well now. But history always has James Paxton on the IL. And if you can get really good pieces for James Paxton. Chaim Bloom is more of a far-sighted guy than nearsighted guy. He'll take value, especially on a guy like this that's pitching well now, knowing that he has the potential of having 3 big arms come back into that rotation and take over and still have the ability to win if you're able to trade, if it's AAA to the big league ready type guys for James Paxton.
I 100% agree. I mean, I pull the trigger on that without even hesitating. You've got Houck coming back, Whitlock coming back, Sale coming back.
Sale.
He threw a bullpen on Friday, and everyone that came back from that bullpen was blown away by what they saw. Apparently, like I think when we think of Chris Sale, we think of this is a guy.
Why send them on rehab? Well, they shouldn't send them on rehab, as far as I'm concerned. They're throwing this week 2 openers.
Yeah, you might as well.
Why not just have them be an opener? Why not just, instead of throwing those bullets in AAA or in A or in AA, have those bullets be thrown at the major league level and be an opener.
Yeah. So I think Paxton's one of those guys. So of the teams that are going to be buyers, what do you think is the most, like, who's the team to watch, and why is it the Baltimore Orioles?
Because they are the team that's spending the least right now in Major League Baseball, and eventually, even if ownership over there, the 2 brothers have been going at it the entire time, it's, as far as I'm concerned, they're raising their attendance. The fans, this is a baseball town, and the fans have been patiently waiting for their front office to be able to provide those young players. And the young players they're coming through. They're coming through, and the fan base knows that there's more coming as well. I mean, when you have Jackson Holliday right now already in AA, and the kid's still a teenager, and he's absolutely just balling. He is raking. He is playing defense. This kid's a ball player. He's hungry, and you already have unbelievable talent at the major league level. You have a lot of pieces that can help big league teams right now, and that's gonna, I think that plays. But they're also figuring out all the holes that other teams haven't been able to figure out with their players. If you look at Bautista, their closer. If you look at Cano, their setup guy, they just went out and plucked one of Dallas's guys as well, Mount Fuji. And they went out there, and they're trying to make them better. They're going to exploit whatever they do well, and they're going to go and figure out how they are better with an Oriole uniform on. And I think that's what they're really good at. That's what they were good at in the Houston Astros organization before going to Baltimore. And they're figuring it out now, and the entire league is noticing, and they're beating the big boys. They're not just getting all over the young teams, the teams that are supposed to be beat. They're beating the good teams as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's lost in the whole Oriole narrative, is that they are first in the division in the year that everyone's talking about this being the best division of all time. Like you can now go onto betting websites, and there are prop bets for, will the last place team in the AL East have a better record than the first place team in the AL Central? Like, you can now bet on things like that. And coming into today, as we sit here right now, the Yankees by 1 percentage point have a better record than the first place Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
So,
but let me ask you guys this, and yeah, I'm the guest here, but I love asking questions as well. Shouldn't the Yankees be sellers and not buyers? I understand it's New York, and you sort of have to buy because it's New York, but they're a below 500 team if they don't just whoop on Oakland. Sorry, Dallas.
And the Royals.
It happens.
And the Royals.
Yes.
Right? And the Royals.
But Eddie, that's the only reason that they're not buyers, is because it's New York. And there has been clamoring for a shift in front office representation, however justified that may be at times. That's where the New York Yankee fan base is. I can tell you that much. But it always has felt like the Yankees have been fighting themselves in the willingness to admit that they're a franchise that could possibly retool, could possibly rebuild. And I think that has been the biggest hurdle to clear, is just the in-house ego and willingness to say, we haven't gotten what we thought we were going to get, and we need to go a different route. Why not?
The one thing I can say though is if you're a Yankee fan and the moves you see in the offseason, you're like, hey, we're re-signing Rizzo. They re-signed Rizzo. They signed Judge for the money that they did. They really didn't go out and get anyone else that was new. Mm-mm. And the Yankees didn't do that. The Mets didn't do that as well. And we're seeing what happens when you continue to recycle the same people, right? The same names. And sometimes it's the fear of change, because in New York, unlike any other place, is can you play there? Can you wear the pinstripes? Can you produce? And we've seen in the past a lot of guys that have worn the pinstripes that just have not been able to do it because of the pressure, if it's the media, if it's a stadium, whatever it may be, but they haven't been able to do it. They go somewhere else and they do well. With New York, and they retooled one year. I mean, they traded Chapman, and they ended up with the Cubs. They got some pieces there. They got Glaber, and Sanchez was really good that year. And all of a sudden, we're like, wow, they didn't rebuild, they retooled, and they're actually better. I think they need to retool. They need to get younger. And yes, they've been very patient with Volpe. We're seeing what's going on also in the middle of that infield, but they need a little bit more. And that's the big question. Can they get more? And can they be able to trade some of those veteran pieces to be able to get younger? And that's the value right now that they have is in their bullpen. Those are the tradable parts that I think can get them pieces.
I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I was curious to get your thoughts on, we're talking about teams that we think should be active at the trade deadline. What team do you anticipate actually being the most active? Like, we know Baltimore needs pitching, Cincinnati needs pitching, even the Dodgers to an extent. I feel like no one talks about how like the Dodgers starters, like those numbers are not tremendous either. What team do you anticipate actually being the most active at the trade deadline?
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Dodgers being really active. They're in this thing, and their ownership's in this thing that they'll give Andrew Friedman all the leeway, but it's the teams like the Twins that are also looking for another starter. It's the teams like the Cleveland Guardians that are looking for a starter, maybe another bat as well. Those are the teams that I think could make a splash in this. Tampa Bay, team that I didn't think was going to lose ground at all from first place, the way they started their season. Really surprised. They're 20 games over right now, but it's another team that could probably do well getting an extra bat right now. And it's scary to think, because this team, the first 2 months of the season, offensively, I mean, they were hitting the ball in the air as good as anyone. Yandy Diaz was hitting the ball at almost at a 60% clip, still like around 56% clip. And since June, I think since the end of June, it's been down to like a 40%, back to the old Yandy Diaz that we were used to, hitting the ball hard on the ground, but still hitting the ball hard. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay makes a move.
Shohei?
Eduardo, I want to go big picture with you for a second. Your last season as a Major League Baseball player was 2006, right?
Oh boy.
And you immediately, correct me if I'm wrong, but you immediately joined ESPN for the 2006 postseason to do postseason work. Since that point, I hope I have close to everything. You've done studio work with Baseball Tonight and Baseball Esta Noche. You've done games, obviously, like you're doing right now, which include playoff games. They include Little League World Series. They include KBO for a little while. Mm-hmm. You've
college.
College. You've been a manager at both the WBC events, Puerto Rico. You've been a hitting coach, bench coach at the major league level, special assistant to baseball ops. And you've even managed to fit in every week some radio as well. So my question for you is, if you could go back to prime era Eduardo Perez, the baseball player, what is one thing that you have learned either in studio working beside, a brilliant mind like Carl, or in your capacity as a manager, or something that you would apply to your baseball career as a player, something you've learned, a perspective you've gained, and anything that would make you better in your career or more satisfied or whatever it might be?
I wish I would have had cataract surgery earlier.
I love it. What a specific answer.
You think you're still going to run into one from a righty?
I wish I could have seen spin.
Oh, that's great.
For a lot of you that don't know, I lost my eyesight in A-ball, bunting a ball, and I had a severe traumatic cataract in A-ball, and I was able to play my entire big league career with a nasty traumatic cataract that I couldn't see nothing out of. So I had that fixed a few years back in 2016, I believe, and it's been a different world ever since. I sort of see a little bit better, even though I have a buckle in my eye, and I see distorted, but I'll take that ahead of what wouldn't have been able to see. But
wait a second,
that's the physical side of it.
So you stood in there when we were down in spring training. You stood in against that pitching machine that replicates big leaguers, and you just
project.
Yeah, you just stood there, not being able to see what was coming at you.
Well, then, that was this spring training. Yes, I couldn't see anything. It was coming at like 95, and I hadn't seen 95 in so many years.
It was DeGrom. But, you went in there for DeGrom. That was coming in hotter than 95.
But after 95, everything is a blur. But it's the ability of being able to see as a player that I think differentiates guys like. If it's Juan Soto that sees everything slow, Tony Gwynn was unbelievable at that. And you had to learn how to be able to have advantages. But one thing, as far as that I've learned now that I wish I would have known is all the analytics. I wish they would have been a part of my game. I wish I would have dove deeper into the understanding of my swing path and how it correlates to the person on the mound. And it explained a lot to me why I struggled looking back against Barry Zito, because even though he did it at the time, throw 98, 99, I couldn't hit it. He was over the top. The spin rate must have been unbelievable, not only on the fastball, but on the curveball as well that he had. He had a really good changeup that he developed later on. But when he was an athletic, I remember always at that stadium saying the mound has to be higher. And it's because I couldn't catch up to his fastball, or his curveball came out of a ceiling that I had not seen before for a strike. And that confused me. And I think the data in today's game would have given me now I know why. Now I know why I could hit Randy Johnson, because it wasn't about the velocity. It was more about his arm path with my swing path that we were made for each other. And I think that has a lot to do with, some of my success that now I could probably quantify, and I could say, oh, now I know why. And not having those numbers to this day still frustrates me, because as soon as someone figures out how to be able to do it and do it from video and put it into play, it'll show you why some guys are better than others. And I use that now as an analyst to be able to study who's going to do well against a certain pitcher, and I focus on those guys on that given game.
That's fascinating stuff. I wish that data existed for how they can just retroactively go back and be able to look at some certain statistics, but all the spin stuff we'll just never know.
Well, just think about it. I'll give you a quick thing, and I said it on the air on Sunday. Pete Alonso, I've always said, look, if he's closed off in a major way, that he closed himself off a couple of years ago, but he stayed in the same place where he stands on the box. I'm like, it doesn't work. Anything, even a Dallas Braden fastball in the inner half will jam Pete Alonso. No disrespect, Dallas.
All the disrespect.
None taken. None taken.
None taken. He understands. He's made of iron, but a steel. But if he separated himself from the box, from the plate a little bit more, and he has that closed stance, he's already covering so much of the plate on the outside part. He can allow that ball to get deep and still hit it to right center. But anything that's middle in, he'll be able to hit far and keep fair. And if you go back in history, Mike Schmidt would stand so far from the plate, but he was closed off. He had a closed stance. So he would step towards almost the second baseman and be able to have that coverage away, but still understand that any pitch inside was going to be a ball, but any pitch middle in, he could pull fair and keep it fair. The way that Pete Alonso is set up right now, he should be farther away from the plate. And yesterday, he looked farther away from the plate and he hit 2 out. I think he's the best home run hitter in the game that's not using all of his tools.
Yeah. I mean, I believe he has the most home runs in the big league since he debuted.
Yeah. And he should have more.
He should have more. All right. We're going to let you go with this question. The biggest name to be on the move at the trade deadline, and where is that individual going?
I think I said it already. Justin Verlander to the Astros.
Okay.
Cody Bellinger will go as well.
I like Belly to the Phils.
Belly to the Phils. The Phils are going to do something. Dave Dombrowski is going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. What he's going to do, we don't know, but it's going to be something big.
Yeah, that's his MO. All right, Eduardo Perez, check out Red Sox Braves on ESPN tonight. We appreciate you taking the time. It's always a pleasure to have a baseball conversation with you, my friend.
You got it. Likewise.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
I thought we were going to talk about the first pitch strike that you threw in August of last year.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but I mean, I'm glad you mentioned it. That's my favorite video of all time.
We just don't have enough time, Eddie. We just don't have enough time.
It was, oh my gosh. Did you guys do a segment on that?
I think we did because it was a strike.
If it wasn't a strike, then I guarantee you that we would have ended up spending a bunch of time on it. But yeah, Dallas will never give me credit for it, unfortunately.
Hey, by the way, he was so cocky going into it that I was like, please bounce it. Please bounce it. He needs just a dose of reality.
No.
I was like up there. I'm like, I'm going to be watching. And I think I recorded it too. I have it on my phone.
I have it right here.
From up above. I was like, been warming up since 3:30. Dude, right down the middle, 4-seam. You were working a little 2-seam action too.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got over the top. I was waiting for it too. I skipped a meal to watch this, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I was going to be all over him. I was going to be all over.
Yeah, he comes up to me. I'm warming up at 3:30 before the game, and he's like, "If you mess this up, we have 8 cameras that are going to have every angle of you spiking this."
I told my director, I was like, "Look, we need this on.
Yes,
because we're going to put it on."
Yes,
I was hoping.
Yeah, just right down the plate. Hit Cora directly in the Superman.
Have camera 4 locked in on Carabas there. It was like, yeah,
incredible.
It's all good.
All right, big thanks to Eduardo Perez for coming on the podcast today. By the way, summer is in full swing, and you need a pair of great shades that you don't have to baby. Knocking Around Sunglasses is the go-to for quality polarized shades that won't break the bank. Plus, they just released the first 9 teams of their official MLB collection, including the Red Sox, the Yankees, Dodgers, Mariners, Cardinals, Cubs, Giants, Padres, Astros, as well as official U.S. women's soccer team sunglasses. So you can add a little something extra to your game day outfit just in time for this summer's big matches. Don't be the person that's squinting into the sun or worried about getting sand on their overpriced sunglasses. Check out knockaround.com for great looking polarized shades starting at just $28. Super affordable. You're going to go to the game. You're going to look great. You're going to be repping your team. Speaking of repping your team, Joe, the Braves turned a triple play last night.
Let's get it. That game was rigged, bro, from the onset.
No, it wasn't.
You guys had controlled the weather. The Boston Red Sox, it's raining. We're going to have to cancel. Braves were like probably in the clubhouse, ready to go back to the hotel. Psych, get back on the field quick. Game starting. And then like, I don't even know what happened. I literally don't even know what happened with that one play. I couldn't even tell you what happened. I can't even explain. There was like a line drive and I don't know. I watched it with the sound off and I'm looking at it. I'm like, yeah, this idiot just threw the ball into the dugout. So it's a run, right? No, it reversed. So Red Sox got a free one. We'll give it to you.
I mean, still won by 6. So what does it matter?
That was going to be a big inning, brother. That first inning.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big inning.
That's too bad. Yeah, the series finales tonight. How you feeling going in? Spencer Strider versus the Red Sox.
We'll win. I feel like we always play you guys in 2-game series and then split it every time. I feel like last year that happened too. In the first series.
That happened this year.
Yeah, I know.
It happened literally this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think last year too. So, it's a good, we got a good deal going on.
Yeah. We got a good agreement. We just play each other and split.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one's mad at anyone else. It's just like you go into the series and everyone gets 50-50 share, and then you walk away being like, good series. All right. Yeah. There's mutual respect. Yeah, that's
used to be the same team, the Alliance, the Boston Braves. Who could forget?
Yeah.
One of the best teams, and then they split, the merger, something, I don't know. And now we're rivals. Did you see that? They heard that on the broadcast, that now with the schedule, you play every interleague team. You play if you're National League, you play every American League team once, but then you have one rivalry matchup. Mm-hmm. And then you play them.
I remember
games.
When I was in high school, when they used to do like interleague, and the Braves were considered the Red Sox rival.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, there's one rivalry series every interleague. It's like, oh, the Red Sox and Braves. Everyone remembers when they couldn't share the same town, so one had to go. It was a showdown between two franchises. They couldn't stand each other.
You still see a lot of Boston Braves merch around Fenway these days.
Yeah. We haven't been able to let it go.
No.
We're just the whole time. We've just been like, man, those goddamn Boston Braves. Who could forget? I think did Babe Ruth play for the Boston Braves too? Towards the end,
pretty sure.
That fat piece of shit murderer. Babe Ruth played his final season with the Boston Braves. Wow. Hit 181 like a fat fuck. He hit 181 with a 789 OPS. Fatty. Wow. Anyways, the Astros defeated the Rangers. And now they're, dare we say, the Astros, are we going to use the B word? Are the Astros back?
No.
They're only one game back. They're only one game back now.
I'm being sarcastic. Of course the Astros are back, dude. I mean, they were never, I guess they were kind of not here for a little bit, but like they're still
they were chilling.
Astros. Like, nobody's going against the Astros. Like, oh, well, the Astros are down this year, even though, and they had a lot of injuries, but it's still a brawlic team.
They've had a ton of injuries, but at no point, even with like, for as much as people were blowing the Texas Rangers, which rightfully so, Texas Rangers having an outstanding season. They've never been more than 6.5 games back. They've never led. They've never had a lead in the division all season. But they've never been more than 6.5 back, which as recently as like June, like last month. Last month, they were 6.5 back. June 24th. They were 6.5 back. But they've pretty much kept it within like 3.5 for most of the season. Like they've just been there. And like I get it. Like the Texas Rangers are having a very exciting year. And they're doing it without Jacob deGrom, which obviously would have been nice if he were part of this Texas Rangers resurgence. The first time that they've been, I don't want to say relevant, but kind of since 2010, 2011, the Nelson Cruz, Josh Hamilton, the Cliff Lee days. Like that was the last time that the Texas Rangers were thought of as a legitimate threat. And here they are. They spent lots of money.
They haven't been relevant since they punched Bautista in the face. That was the last time the Rangers were getting any attention.
But even then, like those were Blue Jay relevance years.
That's what I'm saying. For the wrong reasons.
Like they were just kind of in 2010 and 2011, the Texas Rangers would have won Best Actor, and in 2016 they would have won Best Supporting Actor. Like they were not the main character in that story.
So you're calling them frauds, fake. They're acting. They're acting
I'm
like they're
saying
contenders.
Sam Dyson wasn't the main character in all of this. He just was not. So, Hey, do you think this is it for the Texas Rangers? This is in like Titanic, where like the ship is it's just posing right at the top, and it's right about to begin its descent to the ocean depths. Do you think that that's the point that we're at right now?
Well, as we discussed last time, big fan of Titanic, so I appreciate you bringing it back. No, I don't think so for a couple of reasons. I
almost made a Titanic reference earlier because I believe Eduardo said that Dallas was made of iron, and I said, well, I was going to say the Titanic was also made of iron, and that shit sunk. But go ahead.
Yeah, he did quickly correct himself to steel. It's almost like you knew. It's almost like he knew you were going to mention the Titanic. That's how strong your brand is, I guess. So a couple of reasons why I don't think it's the Titanic sinking situation. I still think the Rangers are legitimately very good. So I don't think the start was a mirage. I don't think their season is a mirage. Maybe playing above 600 baseball was a little bit of over their heads, but I think this is a very good team, and I think they're going to stay a very good team. Secondly, this isn't a situation like a team in the Centrals where if you don't win the division, you're fucked. Because both of these teams are going to make the playoffs, barring like a historically epic collapse. Obviously, you want to win the division, and it would be disappointing just kind of narrative-wise, given how the Rangers started, as you said, if that all culminated in the Astros coming from behind and them having to settle for the wild card. I get that would be disappointing. Even if you had told the Rangers at the beginning of the year, Rangers fans, hey, you're going to make the wild card in 2023, I think 99% of Rangers fans would have accepted that outcome. I think these are almost identically talented teams for the remainder of this season. I expect the Astros to get a little bit healthier. I also expect both of these teams to make supplemental moves. I don't know if it's going to be Verlander like we talked about with Eduardo, but I think both of these teams are making non-trivial adds. And I think I think the only thing that this Astros surge has done, or the Rangers slowing down, has ensured us that it's going to be a division race that takes us through the end of September, as opposed to the Rangers being able to kind of just run out the clock on this.
I love that. When's the last time we had like a neck and neck division race between two teams? It was the Giants and the Dodgers.
Oh, you're talking about like division, where both teams were like legit, like real,
107
like epic teams.
Wins.
Well,
yes.
Well, to be fair, Mets Braves last season.
Yeah.
Like they both won 101 games. So
the Mets won 100 games last year?
I just said that when I was ranting at Joey about the Mets. They won 100 games for the first time since 1988. That's
how irrelevant this franchise has become.
Well, we can debate their past relevancy. That's a separate topic, though, and that's the Wilpons. Anyway, I don't want to do that. No, I mean what made those Giants-Dodgers situations feel special is that I want to say it happened more than once, too, right? Where like I don't know if they won 100 games both in multiple years, but you felt like these teams were running up against each other every single season, and that they were both World Series contenders while doing so. I don't know. I would really like to see Rangers Astros take us through September on this one.
That would be tasty. What's their schedule looking like?
It's a great question.
I'll tell you
let's pull it up.
I want to see
the injured list for the Astros is would be an all-star team.
Yeah. I mean, Altuve's coming back soon, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jordan's already in the minors. Like he's rehabbing. So Altuve, Jordan, Michael Brantley, Luis Garcia, McCullers, and Urquidy.
I mean, I know it's a little
cliche. Do they not play each other? Okay, no. They play each other again, I believe, for the final time the first week of September.
Astros.
So they have Astros, Rangers, September 4th, 5th, and 6th in Texas.
So
that's the next and last time that they play each other.
So what's interesting about this, or somewhat interesting, is that the Rangers finished the season with 10 straight against their own division. Granted, it's probably two teams that either will be in the middle. It's all Mariners, Angels, But the Astros finish on the road in Arizona. So like they have a 6-game road trip in Seattle and Arizona to end the season through the Astros. So I'm not sure how much that matters, but it's kind of interesting that's the new schedule, right?
Yeah.
I would love to be able to see, like, is there like a marquee series that's the last series of the season? Like, I love that shit. Like in September when it's the regular season, but you have a 3 or 4 game set sometimes where it's the last series of the season and it's between 2 teams that essentially your playoff life depends on it. I guess it's hard to tell, I guess, for like the wild card picture. Like it might end up being that there are 2 teams that are playing each other where the third wild card spot is on the line. But we may not know that until we get closer to the end of September.
So let's see. All right, so you can tell me what's interesting to you. Here are some series that wrap up at the end. Red Sox, Orioles. Okay. Dodgers, Giants. That's fucking great. Rays, Blue Jays.
Could be.
As we previously mentioned, Astros, D-backs, which is obviously a very non-traditional one.
Rays and Blue Jays separated by 5 games right now.
Sure. Yeah. It needs to get a little closer for it to be truly interesting,
yes.
But at least they're in the same division and both competing for the playoffs. Rangers, Mariners obviously needs a little help. And then Reds, Cardinals. That right now sets up as more of maybe the Reds could be spoilers for, the fun, or the Cardinals could be spoilers for the fun Reds team, as opposed to the Cardinals actually playing for the playoffs. But that's a decent number of series that could really, really matter at the end of the season. That Giants-Dodgers one could be. I didn't even know that was the case when we were just talking about those epic Dodgers-Giants series. So that's maybe extra fun.
Yeah. The Giants and D-backs are currently in lockstep with each other. They're both 4 games back of the Dodgers in the NL West.
That got me quick, brother. Dodgers.
It did.
Dodgers might just pull away.
They could. I guess we're gonna have a lot of questions answered after the trade deadline. Like, I want to see who's out there, who makes like the move where the team gets heavily criticized for what they had to give up to acquire the player, but then they acquire a player that separates themselves from the pack. Like, that deal is happening. I just don't know who it is and where that player is going. But there is going to be some team where Passan tweets it out, breaking, so-and-so have acquired player X for prospect XYZ. And people are going to be like, what the fuck? Like, that's just probably going to happen. I just don't know like who that player is that, because if we're being told like Juan Soto's not getting moved, Blake Snell's not getting moved, Josh Hader's not getting moved, presumably Ohtani's not getting moved. Like, is there a surprise player like laying in the weeds here where it's like, well, I didn't see him. Like, he wasn't even in the top 10. Like, because once you start getting into these top 10s, like the bottom of those lists, you're going to start to see like the Tim Andersons of the world, where it's like,
they're like DFA
the value is all in name.
Yeah.
I think that could be the guy. I don't know how much you're going to give up for him, but I've said it before. I think Tim Anderson goes to a new team and immediately becomes good again.
Do you really?
Yeah, because it's a vibe check. I can see vibes.
It's a vibe check.
And yeah, I watch him and he looks like bad vibes. And I think he doesn't want to fucking be there. I don't blame him.
That may be true. Like, he's been so bad, like breathtakingly bad. So maybe it is a vibe thing, because his defense has been crappy too, according to the numbers. So it's not just an offense thing either.
So it's everything. And a frown on your face, which is the most important metric, in my opinion. Are you smiling?
Yeah. Wow. We know who leads the league in smiles. It's Mr. Smiles.
Yes. Yeah. Did you see my tweet yesterday? People were all up in arms about it.
Why? I don't check your replies. Why were they up in arms?
I looped in Dansby Swanson and people didn't care for that.
Oh.
People less care for it today because he hit 2 home runs last night.
Yeah.
So his OPS jumped up like fucking 50 points. But I had the tweet, let's see, which has been thoroughly enjoyed by 1.9 million people. Trey Turner.
You're doing numbies lately.
Doing big numbies. I know when I'm going to shake the cage of baseball Twitter. And I knew that this was going to do it. Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, Carlos Correa, Dansby Swanson, and Francisco Lindor signed $1.3 billion worth of contracts and are hitting a combined 246 with a 733 OPS this season. That's about the same offensive production as 37-year-old Carlos Santana, who's hitting 237 with a 730 OPS. And boy, did people not like this tweet if one of their favorite teams had one of these players on it.
I mean, I know you know this, but you know why that's a particularly enraging tweet for those fans? Because you fucking know that Dansby Swanson and Francisco Lindor are maybe two of the 5 best defensive players in baseball.
Yes, but I know that my tweet is talking about, it clearly states that's about the same offensive production as 37-year-old Carlos Santana. So I'm strictly looking at offense. I got all these fucking dorks coming in here being like, oh, well, here's your top 10 and wins above replacement. That factors in base running, defense, like everything. I'm not saying that Dansby Swanson is having a bad season. Dansby Swanson's having a good year. Like I'm just strictly looking at offense. Like off, and then I even had like the Lindorks were in there trying to say, bro, like Francisco Lindor, like why is Francisco Lindor being looped into this group? I'm like, because he's hitting fucking 220 with like a 780 OPS. Like he got $341 million. And then they're trying to tell me, oh, it's because like those aren't drastically off from his career norms. And I was like, well, his career norms have fallen demonstrably since he came to the Mets. Like if you just look at his Cleveland career norms, he was like an 830 OPS guy. He hit like 285 with like an 830 OPS with Cleveland. So yeah, like if you want to look at his career norms coming into this year, you're also collecting some of the poor offensive performance with the Mets.
I do want to come to their defense on that a little bit, because if you look at OPS, yes. If you look at OPS plus, which adjusts for obviously the offensive environment of that era, like his production with the Mets really isn't very far off of from what he did with Cleveland. And when you look at the Cleveland year by year, what we're really talking about is one season of offense, right? It's that 2018 season where he posted a career high in OPS, which was also easily his career high in OPS plus and his career high in homers. Like that, I think, myself included, set the expectation for Lindor's offensive production to be way too high, because his last 2 years in Cleveland, 19 and 20, his OPS plus was 114. His OPS plus in 3 years with the Mets is 114. So I think if people thought they were getting 2018 Lindor, then yeah, man, I think people have a right. Those people can be disappointed. But I think strictly offense, I think it is closer than OPS or batting average would suggest. He's not the same player as he was, but I think it's closer than people think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't say that they were train wrecks. I just said,
no, I know. I know. You phrased it in a way that, maximum engagement without being wrong.
Yeah, that's my specialty. I got you. How many people can I piss off while having plausible deniability? That's the game.
I get it.
Like, I didn't say they were bad. I didn't say that they were having bad seasons. I just said like they're with batting average and OPS, they're having a combined season that's very comparable to 37-year-old Carlos Santana.
I fucking love
That's all.
I fucking love people on Twitter. Sometimes people respond to the Baines meter stuff with like, if I didn't know better, it would genuinely, like earnestly being like, it seems like you're trying to criticize Harold Baines as opposed to celebrate these other players. When I read this more closely, I'm like, oh, really? Is that what it seems like to you? Like, Jesus Christ. No. Good job, fucking detective.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, this all started because I was trying to help out Phillies fans because they were booing Trey Turner. So I was like, wait a second. Like, I get that he got $300 million. He's not having a good year. But there's other guys that got big contracts that play shortstop that aren't living up to that money. So I just combined it all into a tweet. That's all. I was trying to help Phillies fans feel better about themselves. That's really all the basis. I wasn't out here trying to shit on the Correas and the Bogarts and the Dansby and the Lindors of the world. I was just like, hey, Philly fans, put on a little smile.
I'm going to actually flip that smile upside down because I think there actually is a pretty key difference between Trey Turner and those other guys who got big money at shortstop. And that's that those other guys are really good defensive players. And Trey Turner is not. And like part of earning, quote unquote, earning a $300 million deal is that you have to age gracefully and you have to have like a broad base of skills to be able to age gracefully. And if Trey Turner is like not really a shortstop anymore, or is a well below average defensive shortstop as opposed to Swanson and Lindor, who, I mean, Dansby Swanson's been the best defensive shortstop in baseball for 2 years running now. Like, I think that actually is kind of a huge problem. But
yeah, I mean, that's why everyone in the replies is using wins above replacement as the combat.
Yeah, sure. That
statistic, which I agreed. I was like, I'm not going to tell you that Dansby Swanson having a fine year.
Yeah.
He's having a fine year. I like Dansby Swanson.
Also, when you're talking about Trey Turner, you have to take into account the Philadelphia Phillies buffer year, which is a phenomenon that's occurring more and more frequently this year. First year in Philly, you're going to have a bad year. But they lock you up long term. Nick Castellanos. Happened to Bryce Harper. First year in Philly, first year. Brandon Marsh. He's killing it this year. Last year, not as much. The buffer years is a real thing.
I'm pretty.
It was not a thing with Schwarber. It's almost like the anti-buffer year for Schwarber.
I'm pretty sure they have looked at, like, I don't know what the threshold was on contracts, but I'm pretty sure studies have been done where like contracts of a certain amount of money, when that player changes teams and also changes leagues in the process, like, which applies to some of these guys and not others, but that there is a tangible year one impact on their production. Like the most famous example I can think of is Beltrán when he signed with the Mets and was like, oh my God, this guy sucks. And then he was like year two through the rest of the deal, he was like a Hall of Fame caliber player, but like never fully got over that first year. I feel like mentally for a lot of people. I don't know. The good thing for the Phillies, I do, to go back to your point about like who's that team that's going to pay this package of prospects that maybe gets criticism, but gets them the player that maybe comes out of nowhere or is the best available player. I think the comment in the Eduardo interview is spot on. Like, I think we've been underplaying the Phillies as that team. As they get closer and closer to like real contention, I think we have a track record of like 30 years that tells us what Dave Dombrowski is going to do in a situation like this. And it's go get the guy. And like, I don't know if Andrew Painter's Tommy John surgery complicates the situation or in some ways makes him more of a tradable asset for the Phillies. I don't know, but I think they might very well be that team.
He's the one that called me a scumbag or something.
Listen, I'm not talking about his judgment on human beings. I'm simply saying, what is his track record on baseball transactions? I don't think you're a scumbag. I would side with you over Dave Dombrowski, but he is the GM.
No, Painter called me a scumbag.
Well, I could give less of a fuck about him. Who cares?
Yeah. Because I tweeted Matt Strom hitting a home run and said, hate to see it. And he said, you're a scumbag. Be professional. It's like, what?
Jesus.
Yeah. Carlos Beltrán, by the way, his first year with the Mets, he was an all-star, but he hit 266, 330 on base, a 744. Too, right? Huh? What did you say? What did you say?
Oh, I just said the power was way down too, right?
Oh, yeah. The 414 slug. But then from 2006 to 2011, he hit 286 with an 899 OPS. I mean, 522 slug.
I mean, the very next season, he came back and hit 41 homers with 18 steals and a 982 OPS while playing literally gold glove center field defense. Carlos Beltrán is fucking awesome, and he better get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he was great.
435 homers, 312 steals, while being like one of the greatest defensive outfielders of his generation and being a winner for whatever that matters for people. Like one.
You think they're going to get him on the cheating stuff?
I don't know. I'm very interested to see to what degree he's punished for that. I think it would be a shame if he was kept out of the Hall of Fame for that.
I thought this was his second year on the ballot. This is his first year on the ballot next year? The next one?
I thought it was first, isn't it? Hold on. I'm on his reference page. If I missed a year, that would... Oh, no. He got you're right. He got 46.5% last year.
Oh.
So that would suggest to me that he's eventually on path for election. But because it's very rare or unprecedented that somebody would debut with that high of a number and not make it in. So,
do you think that there's going to be a significant jump year 1 to year 2, or do you think it's going to be a slow crawl?
I think it's going to be a slow crawl for the reason that Joey said. I think there's probably some portion of the electorate, I have no idea what percentage that is, that's intractable on this cheating stuff. Personally, I think Carlos Beltrán is already being punished for that by not having been the manager that he was supposed to be. And it looks like not being hired for future roles in that regard, at least for a prolonged period of time. So that to me is the punishment. Like that's being addressed. So to keep him out of the Hall of Fame, which is specific to his playing career, I feel like would be really, really shitty. I think it's going to be a slow crawl, in part because of what we talked about on Monday, where the ballot is fucking packed. You can disagree with what I said about the people who are ahead of Wagner, but if you just look at all of those people and put them in whatever order you want, you have 11 or 12 guys who are not just like fringe consideration cases. Like I really need to look hard at this guy's Hall of Fame candidacy. And when there's that sort of log on the ballot, I'm concerned that a guy who needs to get basically 30% more of the vote to get in is going to get that in 1 year or 2 years. I think it might be 4 or 5.
You don't think it could be like a Roberto Alomar situation where it's like, hey, you're a piece of shit and we don't want you to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but you're still a Hall of Fame piece of shit. So we'll put you in the second year. Because I mean, like what Beltrán did, basically being like I feel like others get pinned as the ringleader of the Astros cheating scandal, but it was really Beltrán. He doesn't strike you as someone that they could be like, all right, like we just don't like you're a Hall of Famer, but we're not going to give you the distinction of being first ballot. You think like that the odds are that I'm trying to predict. Yeah. Like I think he probably gets closer to 65% in year 2.
So I think there are probably people who viewed it that way. It's hard for me to put myself back in this mindset exactly, but I want to say that as he came onto the ballot, Roberto Alomar was considered much more of a Hall of Fame lock or was more universally considered a Hall of Famer than Carlos Beltrán is or was. Like, I still think there's like a decent chunk of the electorate who's like, is Beltrán a Hall of Famer? Like he didn't win an MVP award. Like his career had like those weird starts and stops sometimes that like the 2005 Mets season, for example, that we talked about. Like, was he truly a great player? Roberto Alomar, I think, was like, this guy was maybe the greatest second baseman of his generation. Like he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Turns out Roberto Alomar is even more of a piece of shit than we realized when he was elected into the Hall of Fame. We don't need to get into that, but like, I think Beltrán's case is a little bit less straightforward than that and more like you're just going to kind of need to grind it out. Because like, honestly, like with as much as I love Beltrán, if we go and look at like who those people that are going to be on the ballot are, where does he realistically fit on that group? Like what rank is he on that group? Is he 5th? Is he 6th? Is he 3rd, 4th? Like I'm not sure, but he's not like the best player that's on the list. So I do think it's going to be a little bit of a slog for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Beltré is automatic. Like that's just happening.
Which is really interesting to me because I feel like they're actually very similar careers. I feel like they like the only difference really is that Adrián Beltré
was more durable.
Yeah, he was more durable and his popularity just kept going up as he got older. Like there was a David Ortiz element to him where like the longer he was in the game, like the more insanely popular he became. Whereas like when he signed that massive deal with the Dodgers, where he was initially viewed as a free agent, when he left the Dodgers and signed the deal with the Mariners and was viewed as a massive free agent disappointment, like almost nobody gave a fuck about Adrián Beltré at that point. Like we just learned after the fact that like, holy shit, he's playing like legendarily great defense in Seattle where nobody watches him. And that park was crushing offense at that time. And it's like, oh, it turns out like his OPS is in the 700s, but actually he's really fucking good still. You know what I mean? And it's like, it took time to appreciate that. And then he got out of Seattle and went to Boston and was like, oh, okay, he's still an awesome offensive player. It's just nobody could hit in Seattle for a period of like 10 seasons, which is true. Go check it out. Like, if you've forgotten how bad those Mariners offenses were back in the day, oh boy.
Sean Figgins leading the charge.
Another free agent disappointment there. But Beltré's a lock. It's a question of what percentage is he getting. And I think it might be high enough that it's going to surprise some people. Like, it would not shock me if he got
that type of popularity that you're talking about goes a long way.
For sure.
It sounds silly, but Beltré fucking around with Elvis Andrus, like pretending to catch fly balls, like helps his Hall of Fame candidacy because everyone looks back so fondly on. I mean, he had a Hall of Fame career, like statistically. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from Beltré, but I am saying that like the don't touch my head stuff and the fucking around with Elvis Andrus stuff, like that helped your case. It really does.
Really?
Like it's just like people were like, yeah, Adrián Beltré, fuck yeah, I love Adrián Beltré. Check that box. Like, you know, if they have similar statistics, we're talking about Beltrán. Like, what's Adrián Beltré's career wins above replacement?
93.5, which is the point I was going to.
So he clears Beltrán by a lot.
Yep.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was thinking. I think it's kind of the opposite, Jared. I'm not a Hall of Fame candidacy, but I think like his like funniness like kind of overshadowed how like amazing he actually was as a player.
Yeah.
I think it cuts both ways. I think you guys are both 100% right. I think towards the end of his career, it enhanced his star level, all that goofing around and raised his notoriety above where a guy playing in Texas at the end of his career might otherwise find himself. And I think you're right that it actually it got to a point where people have either didn't appreciate or forgot how good Adrián Beltré is. I was saying Beltrán might struggle a little bit because he's not the best player on this ballot. If you remove Alex Rodriguez, Adrián Beltré is the best player on this ballot, and it's not particularly close. After like A-Rod's in his own, then Beltré, then there's another massive drop down, at least according to wins above replacement. And I think we're all kind of on the same page with that too. That Adrián Beltré is closer to like Mike Schmidt than he is, I don't know, like Nolan Arenado. That's a fucking fact historically. Like that's how good Adrián Beltré was. He's the third baseman of his generation. Again, if A-Rod's kind of in his own class.
So from 1999 through 2016, that span. So you're taking out his age 19 season, which was he got called up in 1998. He was 19 years old. So from 99 to 16, you're taking his first full big league season and you're leaving off his last two, his age 38 and 39 seasons. So from age 20 to 37 seasons, he averaged 147 games played, 161 hits, 32 doubles, 24 home runs, 86 RBI, a 287 batting average, a 117 OPS plus, an 821 OPS, and a 482 slug. And that's with like the Seattle years in there too. But I think like the thing that stands out for me is that over an 18 season span, he averaged 147 games.
And that's ultimately what's going to get Adrián Beltré in the Hall of Fame, other than the defense. It's the durability because like reference also lists, not only do they list your career WAR, but they list your most wins above replacement over a 7-year consecutive period. And A-Rod's in his own class, but Beltré falls way back towards the pack with the other guys. Like he's behind Utley, then him, but him, Helton, Andrew Jones, Beltrán, Utley, Bobby Abreu, even they're all like Manny. they're all in the same kind of pocket of group. And I think that speaks to the idea that, like, part of what made Adrian Beltré great is that he was fucking available for you all the time. And like throughout almost his entire career, like he was available in Seattle, he was available in Boston, he was available in Texas. It wasn't like there was no real ebb and flow. He was just there.
I don't know how we got on Adrian Beltré, but I'm happy that we got there.
Hell yeah. That's time well spent, I think.
Yeah, it really is. How do we get there? How do we get to Adrian Beltré? I know, like, we go back to Beltrán, like, but before how do we get there?
They sounded like Beltré.
It's a good point. I know we were talking about the Astros and the Rangers, and then we're just like, hey, let's break down the fucking Hall of Fame candidacy of Adrian Beltré. I mean, legendary Ranger. I think that's one of the craziest parts about the whole Adrian Beltré lineage is that he's going to go into the Hall of Fame as a Texas Ranger, and his number is retired by the Texas Rangers. That was his last stop in his career.
How many people are there where they're in the Hall of Fame wearing the cap of their last team? Furthermore, and this is just WAR, so you can nitpick on whether this is actually the case, but his two best individual seasons are also not with the Rangers. That massive Dodgers season 04 that got him the contract, and then his 2010 Boston season are his two best seasons by B-WAR. Like, it's just, again, it's very unique like that. Who, like, off the top of our head, can we name anybody who's in the Hall of Fame off of their last stop? Like, Randy Johnson was in his, like, second half of his career when he went to the Diamondbacks, but, like, that wasn't his last stop.
No, people forget he pitched for the fucking Giants.
I remember Randy Johnson going to the Yankees and KFC in particular, just being like, oh my God, they get everybody. It's fucking over. Remember Randy Johnson in the Bronx? I barely do either.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
I remember him pushing the cameraman. I don't remember much pitching.
That's the only thing I remember about that.
Yeah. I remember Manny taking him deep as a Yankee, but I remember Manny like faking an illness so that he never had to face Randy Johnson. Like, he would just be like, no. Which reminds me of the other story that Tim Kirchin told me. I said he told me the Bob Gibson story, the Earl Weaver story, but he also told me a Manny story. So Manny, if you remember, was going to be the player traded to the Texas Rangers for A-Rod.
Yep.
And the prospect going along with Manny was actually John Lester. So thank God that for multiple reasons that trade never happened. But Manny, I guess, the fall when the trade didn't happen, the following spring, he saw A-Rod in spring training and went up to him, and he was like, "Man, like, that really sucks that trade didn't go through. It would have been awesome to play with you, brother." Not realizing that he was the player going to Texas for A-Rod.
That's awesome.
That's just very Manny.
Yeah, that's good
very
stuff.
Manny. Yeah. Only the good shit with Manny Ramirez. I guess we can kind of just briefly mention Kike Hernandez going back to the Dodgers. I feel like that was, I don't want to say inevitable. I didn't want to outright, you never know what Chaim Bloom's going to do. I didn't want to outright just like assume that Kike was going to be the guy, but the Red Sox had an influx of infielders and they needed to make a move. It was between Pablo Reyes, Christian Arroyo, Yu Chang, and Kike Hernandez. I think there's a little bit of shock / surprise when it ended up being Kike, just because of how close of a relationship he had with Alex Cora, the money that he was owed, and just the overall performance. I think, like, by F-WAR, he was statistically the worst player in Major League Baseball this year. So the fact that Chaim Bloom was able to take a player in Kike Hernandez, who has been awful statistically, and is, I think he's gotten $10 million this year. Like, having a team be like, yeah, we'll take that guy and we'll give you 2 human beings for him. That is a feather in the cap of Chaim Bloom. But yeah, I don't know if you guys had anything else on Kike.
He's going to rake in LA, I tell you that much.
Probably.
They're going to give him the great matchups, platoon him, and he's just going to get hot, brother. It's my prediction.
I could see that. Mm-hmm.
I get, again, it doesn't really matter. I'm a little confused on the deal. What is he providing the Dodgers? Is this just like a familiar face that, like, we can get to fill in the gaps for the time being, and if it doesn't work, we can cut him ourselves, sort of thing. Like
pretty much. Yeah, I know so they traded him at like 4 p.m. and he was on a flight by 7:30. Like he was already in the air by the time the Red Sox played the game that night. And because I think like he was told like you're going to be in the lineup for us tomorrow. Like you're playing second base tomorrow. Because
like you talked about the offense, and I'd looked that up previous to the podcast. Like if not the worst, then close to the league worst in almost every batted ball type of thing you could talk about. And expected batting ball stuff. So it's not like he's getting unlucky or anything like that. But he's also like, I tweeted out, I was looking at outs above average for team-wide stuff, and the Red Sox are so much worse than every other Major League Baseball team by outs above average that it's like, I'm wondering what is going on with the stat almost as much as I'm wondering what's going on with their team. But almost every response that I got from somebody on Twitter was something about Kike Hernandez and how it's like, oh, that's all Kike, or that's Kike and Rafi or something like that. And I was like, I can't say I've watched enough Kike Hernandez on defense this season to have a real opinion on the matter. But if he's terrible offensively and the numbers hate his defense this year, I'm just left wondering, like, what is really going on? Like, okay, so he's just a bench piece for the Dodgers again because he's familiar. That's just what it sounded like to me. And I wouldn't be totally shocked if a month from now he himself wasn't on the Dodgers either.
Yeah. Jake, in your opinion, was Kike Hernandez good at defense this year?
I can't say that he was good. No.
No. It was pretty bad to watch. I felt bad because it was mental. If you're serious, Jay, and you really didn't see any of this happening this year, I think he made like 15 errors and 14 of them were throwing errors. So at a certain point, it does become like a mental thing.
For sure. And I'm not going to say that I'm like unaware that he's had defensive struggles this year. I just like, I'm only going to see the highlights of him making a bad play, right? I'm not going to see the highlights of him making the routine sure-handed stuff. So like, I just wanted to be fair to him and say that I haven't necessarily watched tape of Kike's defense, but the numbers speak for themselves and the Red Sox numbers speak for themselves too. So I think I'm just, I saw that trade go through and I was like, oh, like I thought it was going to, I would have guessed that it was the Red Sox outrighting Kike before it was them trading him to the Dodgers. That's what kind of surprised me, just given his level of performance. But one last shot. Was he
playing
maybe.
Shortstop?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's never really played shortstop before, has he? He wasn't playing shortstop.
Yeah, a little bit. Yes. Like, so when I interviewed him in spring, I asked him, like, because he played center field. He was like their primary center fielder in 2021. And he was really good. Like defensively, he was a really good defensive center fielder. But I said, given the choice, like what position would you love to play every day in the big leagues? And he was like, shortstop. He didn't even have to think about it. He's like, shortstop. He's like, I'm a shortstop at heart, yada, yada, yada. And then he just went out there and put together one of the worst defensive shortstop seasons maybe of all time. So
it's your fault. Shouldn't have asked that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that is tough. But yep, Kike Hernandez back to the Dodgers, which, I kind of got the sense that, like, yes, I think he enjoyed his time in Boston, but he never wanted to leave the Dodgers. Like he always wanted to be. So I think he's happy. Turf Story's coming back. So yeah, everyone's happy. Everyone wins in this situation.
Just to put a final point on that, just under 44% of Kike's career innings played at shortstop have come this season. So yes, he has played shortstop before. He has never, ever played it at the volume that he's playing this year. This is basically 3 times more innings than he's ever had in a previous single season. So
yeah, we just kept running it back. They're like, this is going to be the day.
Or you put out, who'd you got? You guys had what's his face? Who was playing shortstop for you guys?
Yu Chang?
No, the big boy. Who was that? Oh, I forget his name, dude. It's a rookie
Bobby
last
Dahlbeck?
year. Dahlbeck.
Yeah, Bob Stop. He's like leading AAA in home runs right now. Don't fucking laugh.
No, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying he's not like, shortstop.
No, he's big. He's a big boy.
He's a big dog.
He's a big dog. We have 2 episodes left before the trade deadline on Tuesday. I know that we have one in 24 hours. Prediction: do you think that someone will be traded before our next recording?
Yes.
I do.
Jake?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, if that happens, we'll be here to break it all down for you on the Thursday episode. Final thoughts. Mr. Havens, do you have any final thoughts?
Do I have any final thoughts? Well, it's going to be tough to stop Pierce Johnson.
He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, as a trade candidate. No, I mean, lots of day games today, so I'm excited about that. But Marcus Stroman, Lance Lynn tonight in the Chicago crosstown matchup. 2 trade candidates that we talked about earlier in the podcast. I'll be watching that one.
Joseph, final thoughts?
Yeah. Do you guys see the video of Frank the Tank at Yankee Stadium?
I did, yeah.
That was legendary, bro.
Yeah. Dude had a police escort. Did you see it, Jay? It was like Bill Goldberg. Like it was like Bill Goldberg getting walked out of the locker room to the ring. He had like 5 security guards that were walking him out of Yankee Stadium to chants of Frank the Tank, and he even took his cap off and tipped his cap to the legion of adoring fans as he got a police escort out of the stadium.
It's the king of New York, man. I love to see that. That's a guy who's been beaten down by life, dude.
Yeah.
And the Mets specifically, his whole life. And now he's just the king of New York. And the worse the Mets get, the bigger Frank gets, dude. Speaking for the fans, holding these scumbags accountable.
Did you see that tweet where somebody had pulled up his LinkedIn profile and had noted that
he was a substitute
in the past
teacher.
he was a substitute teacher?
Yes.
Can you fucking imagine just sitting in class like half like glazed over one morning, and that fucking guy walks in as your substitute teacher, just fucking eating his glasses, fanny pack going, like some fucking rant about, like Shosu Shinjo Transit or something like that. Like, like, Turk Wendell not giving them enough out of the bullpen. Like, Jesus Christ, that guy. Man.
I need to see those tapes. I need to see the Frank Fleming substitute teacher tapes of him just losing. Like, someone asks to go to the bathroom and he just fucking loses his mind about like, I don't even know. Like, what year did it say? Like, what roster?
It was like early. It was early 00s, I think.
Okay.
So I mean, that might have been like the back end of the Bobby V era, which could have been, or maybe the Art. Oh no! I think I saw somebody note that it was the Art Howe era, and how they felt. They felt terrible for those children.
Yes,
that was a tough period for the Mets.
Yeah. Just taking his day out on these kids. Oh, Frank. I love how we've gotten blacklisted since changing employers, but Frank the Tank does not give a fuck. Like, he still retweets me all the time. That's why I love Frank. He does not give a flying fuck about any restrictions. We'll pump up Frank. Frank pumps up us.
I gotta find this video of Frank.
Oh, the Yankee Stadium one.
It's a great example of me not knowing content, because I remember that when I was at the Barstool office and he walked in for the first time and just sat his ass directly on the couch and started making Wookiee noises, like as loud as the building would allow, while people were nominally trying to do work. And I'm just like, I didn't have any pull, so I wasn't like going to do anything about it. But I was just like, he's not even an employee. He's just a guy who walked in and took a nap on the couch and made a shitload of noise before he took the nap. And then he gets up and like fucking leaves. And I'm like, I fucking hate this dude. And then the more removed I am from actually experiencing him in person, I just cannot help but laugh at the content. Like, it's Nobody else eats their own glasses, right? Or eats their own hat. Like I just,
that was for
it's a good bit. It's a good bit.
Yeah, and he's definitely self-aware. Like he definitely he's pulled everyone for a ruse that he doesn't that he just like is that way. Like I think he's 100% and aware of what he's doing. I was trying to find the pictures. I don't know how Snapchat works, but the day that you're talking about, he was wearing a Bane mask.
Yes, that's what it was.
He came into the office and put on a Bane mask and started making the Wookiee noises over by like Kevin's desk.
Yeah, people are recording and yeah.
Yes, it was quite the day. Oh wait, here we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Frank Fleming. This is what, 2017? Maybe?
Yeah, 2017.
Oh, here it
18.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
here it is.
Jesus Christ.
There's Frank.
Beast.
Frankie Midnight.
Just being
in a Bane mask.
Just being like, I'm here. And I know there's a real shortage of seats, but I'm going to take a nap on the couch.
Just see that. Yeah, this was August of 2017.
Yeah.
Because right here, soon.
There you go.
Yes.
That's
this was
good.
like, this had to have been,
that was probably after about 5 hours of Pete or Andrew trying to get that up on the screen.
Yeah. Like this had to have been, I don't know, a week or two after we met for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Special times. Special times. I meet you, and then Frank Fleming comes into my life. Just
yeah.
What an epic era. What an epic era for me. I missed 6 years ago, you know.
August of 2017. It'll never be the same.
No, it won't. That's all right. I'm cool if I don't see Frank in person again. Videos are just fine.
Jake Stakes?
Braves, Red Sox, Strider versus Bale. A lot of people saying it might be a World Series Game 1 preview tonight.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that. I've seen that on the internet. I think Joe said it on Twitter this morning. I think he deleted it though because he was afraid of jinxing it, but he tweeted that.
Yeah, it's on Threads.
Oh, it's on Threads.
Yeah.
Are you on Threads?
Mm-hmm. I actually deleted it, like you said. I did post it on Threads this morning. It was promptly banned because people don't want to see that, man. People don't want to see the two cities come together and reunite. You know, they're trying to pin us against each other. Oh, Boston Braves, the bad blood, they left. Or I don't know how, you know, but I think that like we can come together and go to the World Series and like have that same arrangement and get a World Series win for both of us, you know?
Yeah.
Because we could do that. You know, we both won the World Series. We'll tie.
Yeah. I feel that. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Do you want to put a wager on the game tonight, Joe? No?
Yeah, $200.
All right. Deal. All
right, deal. Are you gonna make a deal? I'm dead ass serious.
You're dead ass?
Yeah.
You're dead ass right now.
I'll put $200 on the Braves to win.
All right, dead ass.
Quick Venmo.
Yeah. If you're dead ass, I'm dead ass.
I'm dead. I swear on my life.
All right.
If the Braves lose, I'll Venmo you $200.
All right. Deal. All right, we'll be back tomorrow.
Let's go. We got.